AKAP ho, kailan ho maumpisa yung ayuda para sa kapusang kita program? Kasi other than itong controversial na 9 billion na nawawala, naging controversial din po yung AKAP. At ang sabi ho ng ilan, ito po ay ginamit para sa areglo para doon sa pirma, yung People's Initiative.
Today, how many were actually graduated or delisted from that original intention 1.3?
Mr. Chair, if I can just direct Congressman Daza to the first slide. That 1.5 yan roughly 1.5. Let's just do raw numbers. Of which, ito yan. Yeah. You said 1.3?
Yes.
Can I direct you to the 4-piece special validation dated August 2022? Yan yon, 744,314 that are tagged as non-poor, and then another 514 that were not assessed, hindi nagalaw. And
The end result na
after
lang.
everything,
Yeah.
ang natanggal ho, 355,000.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that, because my initial sentiment a year and a half ago, you just confirmed that 1.3 million was not accurate. And the 300,000 so that were delisted or graduated all went through what's required under the guidelines, the SWD report.
Yeah.
There's an actual ocular
Yes.
interview, and they were level 3.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So I'm happy to hear that. I think DSWD did well on that, and I'm going to move forward because that was our issue with Cong Abalos before. So thank you for the clarification. Now, my next concern or question is, I was somewhat disappointed, and I'm not going to direct the question to the Secretary, Chairman, because during the pandemic, I just found out that the payouts for, let's say, the children for school were not paid. That's why your unutilized ballooned, right? That breaks my heart, because obviously no one will comply with the attendance requirement during pandemic. There's no school. So why did the National Program Coordinator, you weren't there yet, Sec, I want to give the permanent of officials who were there, why did you not give the grants anyways? Because that was force majeure. And it's because it's a poverty alleviation program. Why would you not pay out to these families when we all know they couldn't comply automatically, right? Why didn't you find a way to pay out and use those funds anyways? Because at the end, it's spilled milk now, but we should learn from that. God forbid, we go through another similar event. This should be addressed, Secretary, because if something happens again, I don't think it was a good decision not to pay out during those years of pandemic. Can we get a response?
Mr. Chair, I know it's not directed to me, but if I can get a better sense, now I get a better sense of how the department thinks after spending more than a year there. The department has a very conservative outlook. They tend to look at things very cut and dry. When they say education grant, dapat mag-enroll. It's pretty much what happened with the proxy means test. We kept on insisting, we kept on insisting on using the proxy means test and trying to delist a whole bunch of people. So gradually, what we learned from that lesson is there are other real world scenarios that you have to consider, and there are other tools that you can use to adapt to it. So in this case, rather than insisting on an inadequate tool, we decided to fall back and get the National Advisory Council, the 4-piece, to adopt the SWD as an exit and as an exit tool. I understand she might want to answer, nandito si Director Gemma, but I would assume they took the letter of the law, which it should be, literally, except that the law was crafted minus the lens of COVID happening. Na wala namang pumapasok talaga, pero nag-online learning sila, nag-remote learning sila.
Was your reasoning because of possible legal consequence, COA? What was your fear? Why didn't you pay out those benefits? Because no one can comply.
Mr. Chair, may I? Yeah, I think this is provided for in the law, Mr. Chair, that one of the qualifications that for the child to receive the educational grant, he should be enrolled. And that time, Mr. Chair, talagang ECQ yun eh. Talagang napakataas pa po.
Kong doesn't, if
Yeah.
I may. I don't think remedial legislation is required. The National Advisory Council of this program is empowered to make adjustments to the same degree that we did it for SWD, that dropping proximity tests. I think it's an issue of adaptability and understanding what's on the ground. And I admit, I may not be there. And we always get into discussions, lengthy discussions in the department about them taking it literally rather than considering the real world setting.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the response, and you're being gracious, you're being transparent and just honest responses. So can I get a commitment? Can we get a commitment, Mr. Chair, from the Secretary and the DSWD officials that they will now take this up if the solution is the National Advisory Council and then come up already with guidelines? So we're proactive. If let's say another COVID hits or whatever, unforeseen event, I mean, that the DSWD will adjust and be able to still, do the payouts as it should have been done. Just so we learn from that lesson. But the last thing I'd like to see is we go to something again and then the same situation repeats without any adjustment. So can we get a commitment that you will come up with a internal solution, internal mechanism to deal with future unforeseeable events, and then provide this committee a solution on that?
Mr. Chair, we will gladly do it's a welcome perspective. What we will do is we will convene the National Advisory Council and look at how we can dispense of grants continuously in unforeseen force majeure situations. We'll review every single grant and we will make sure that there are provisions that will allow us continuous payment in unforeseen circumstances.
Please proceed. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Before you proceed with the indulgence of Congressman Polda, sa pang-apat yan, Sek, na request ng
Undersecretary Lee is taking note of the submissions that's required of us.
Thank you, Sec. Thank you. Please proceed,
Okay.
Kong Paul.
Mr. Chair, I want not to focus on the budget deficit. Can I ask from anyone, even my colleagues, I can't recall, for the budget year 2022-23 and this year, I know the MOE has a life of 1.5 years. Am I correct? 2 years. PS is 1 year. MOE is 2 years along with capital outlay. Correct? Okay. So if that's the case, Mr. Chair, there in 2022, you had unutilized 8.3 billion. In the lingo of DBM, that's a continuing appropriation. So why didn't you use that for 2023? Because you could have reduced your deficit requirement for 2023. And then what you can do is push back some of your 2023 appropriations for 2024.
Mr. Chair, the excess ng 2022 was used to pay the retroactive rice subsidy that we also owed. When we walked into the department, there was a hanging issue on unpaid rice subsidy for 2017 and 2018. And we used portions of this to pay for that. Now, moving forward, a portion of this, I believe, was also used to pay the retroactive grants we drew from the same pool of funds. Kasi remember, when we started adding more people during the Burr months, what we would do is when the batch is cleared, napura sila, after the SWD, we process immediately. That's why they're paid in batches. This has been fully utilized. This is naubos huto, nasimot huto. As you can see in the obligation rate, 99% of it was obligated. The only reason why we didn't do actual payout was one, some of them were not due till P5 and P6 this year, and some of them were we were waiting for conditions to be submitted, the education grant. Now, I agree with you, that's the same notion that we had. Now, this year's appropriation can be used to settle last year's payables, to trim it down. We spoke to DBM about it, and they were saying there are legal impediments. There might be legal impediments to doing current year appropriations to settle prior year obligations.
Okay, but okay, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, so all continuing appropriations of the department, I'm not just referring to this 4 piece, have been utilized for 2023? I can't imagine you can answer yes. I'm talking about the entire department because
One thing I can tell you, Mr. Chair, for 4Ps, yes, the bigger appropriation. For AIX, yes. The only ones that we have been having problems with will be the late releases due to foreign assisted components like Kalahi seeds. But the bigger ones, and SLP, which is quite tedious, which we've already revamped. But the bigger ones, such as this is 50% of our budget already, this is fully obligated, fully utilized. Same with AIX. In fact, for AIX, which is the second largest component of the department's budget, we even had to ask for an augmentation from DBM towards the latter part of the year.
okay, assuming 2022 continuing appropriations is essentially used up, I'm sure your 2023 is you still have unutilized for the entire department.
Wala na rin, Mr.
2023, DSWD agency?
For 4Ps,
No, no.
wala na.
Okay, I'm referring to the entire department.
There will probably be continuing in the other items like Kalahi seeds,
Yeah.
SLP, but the bigger ones, wala
Okay,
na po.
but you realize that unutilized funds within the department, it's easier for you to realign that within the department. It was just between you and DBM.
But unfortunately, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, and I would defer to the opinion of the good congressman, but meron ring earmark for those.
Well-
For instance, in SLP's case and in Kalahi's case, they have targeted beneficiaries already, but because of the social preparation, but they're due to be paid this first semester already.
Yung AKAP po, kailan ho maumpisa yung ayuda para sa kapusang kita program? Kasi other than itong controversial na 9 billion na nawawala, naging controversial din po yung AKAP. At ang sabi ho ng ilan, ito po ay ginamit para sa areglo para doon sa pirma, yung People's Initiative. Ano ho ba talaga itong AKAP at saan na ho ba tayo? Kasi dapat ho na-implement na ito pero hinold muna ninyo because of these controversies and inayos niyo po ang guidelines. Ano-ano po ba ang guidelines na ito, Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Congressman Tulfo. Just for the record, nakapublish na po yung guidelines. So that means it's now public consumption. Our friends in media, our friends who have been questioning it from day one can now access it in the official gazette. And that means because it's already published, we are now going to start requesting DBM for funding allocation for it, also that we can start dispensing with it. Napakagandang programa to, and si Secretary Tulfo knows this very well because sa department natin, we have always been helping the poor. Pero even PSA has been saying that there's a big chunk of our population who sits slightly on top of the poverty line, yung near poor kung tawagin, na isang shock lang maaring bumalik sila sa kahirapan. So napakagandang programa na to. And so one, nakapublish na po siya. Number two, maganda siyang programa and the department welcomes it and has been working with PSA on defining near poor, in fact. And number three, ang mga requirements niya is proof of minimum wage. We kept it very simple. Tinuloy namin yung streamlining effort si Secretary Tulfo. Ginawa na lang nating simple. Mag-proof ka lang na minimum wage earner ka, ITR, payslip na official, then that should be suffice for the payout.
Mr. Chair, paano ho, for example, yung mga nakikinig ho sa atin there, we're live sa PTV ho, PTV Congressional TV. Ano ho, kunwari may nakikinig ho sa atin, ano ho ang gagawin niya? Minimum wage po siya, 22,000 yung kanyang sweldo. Paano ho siya makakasali dyan? Yun ho ang tanong nila.
Okay, Mr. Chair, ang una namin gagawin ngayon is we will have to request DBM for funding allocation for it kasi hindi siya nasama doon sa monthly plan namin, pero they will be sending us funding allocation for this. And once na nabigay na yung funding allocation para dito, ilalathala natin sa mga social media pages ng department kung paano sila makakasali. But it will pretty much be the same as AIX yung steps. Yung steps niya is our field offices will be the dispensing areas and they will be taking on the claims nitong mga maaring nangangailangan na minimum wage earners na may pinagdaraan ng financial difficulties. Meron tayong mga field office and satellite offices na tatanggap ng mga claims and the payouts will also be done by our personnel sa DSWD.
So anybody ho around the country, nagtatrabaho siya, Pwede po ba yung sa gobyerno dyan na nasa 23,000 or less po pwede ba government worker po pwede rin ho ba siya mag-claim ng AKAP?
Yes, wala hong distinction na nilagay sa guidelines. Ang nakalagay lang sa guideline, basta minimum wage earner ka, whether public sector or private sector, at nangangailangan ka ng tulong, tutulungan ka ng departamento.
Last two questions, Mr. Chair. So hindi po totoo na itong AKAP ay itinago ninyo para pang suhol ho doon sa mga tao para pumirma po sa tinatawag na pirma para sa People's Initiative.
Mr. Chair, talagang marinding pinabubulaan ng departamento yung akusasyon na yon na tinago to ng departamento para gamitin sa political gains ng kahit sino. Hindi po totoo yon. Ang programa na to ay dadaan sa parehas na masusing pag-assess ng ating mga social worker. Hindi naman dahil may lumapit at humingi, bibigay. Kung hindi, katulad ng lahat ng programa natin, hahayaan natin ang mga social worker ng departamento para suriin ang tunay na pangangailangan at rason kung bakit nagkiklaim ang ating mamamayan. So it will go through the same process prescribed. Gamitin natin yung lente ng ating mga social worker.
Mr. Chair,